Okay. That's good. Okay, shalom, brothers and sisters. All praises be to Ahaya in the name of Yeshua. We're here for our second week, breaking down the 12 tribes of Israel. In our second installment, we're going to go through a few things concerning Levi and how to find them today. Okay? You cut off the recording. But before we do that, we're going to read out of the law, according to the Most High, in Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter. Now these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments, which the Most High Ahaya commanded to teach you, that ye might do them in the land whither you go to possess it, that thou mightest fear the Most High, to keep all his statutes and his commandments, and thy son and thy son's son, all the days of thy life, and that thy days may be prolonged.
Deuteronomy 6:3. Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily, as the Lord thy power of thy fathers have promised thee, and the land that floweth with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord.
Okay. All right, who's next? You go ahead, Mark.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, and verse 5. And thou shalt love the Most High thy power with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart.
Verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy
Cut on the
children,
ear if you want.
and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Verse 8. Thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, they should be as frontlets in thine house.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 9. And thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house, and on thy gates. And it shall be, when the Most High thy power shall have brought thee into the land which he sware unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities, which thou buildest not.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 11. And houses full of all good things which thou fruitest not, and wells big which thou diggest not, vineyards and olive trees which thou plantest not. And thou shalt have eaten and been full. Then beware, lest thou forget the Most High, which hath brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage.
Verse 13. Thou shalt fear the Most.
Okay, all praises be to the Most High. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we have 12 weeks of breaking down the 12 tribes of Israel individually. And this week we're going into the sons of Levi, or the tribes of Levi, which is the second week of our 12-week installment. The first week we went into Judah, the kings, which are predominantly, the so-called Negro in America, from the Ivory Coast of West Africa, and the majority of those that came from Sierra Leone and Ghana are from the tribes of Judah, out of the children of Israel who are scattered and are in exile in America today. This week we'll be going into Levi, identifying the prophecies of the Bible concerning them and where they are considerably within the earth, throughout the four corners of the earth. We're going to identify them. And a matter of fact, more information through the Spirit have come to light concerning them. We'll be speaking of Levi, the priest. So first we're going to go into Genesis, the 49th chapter, because this is how you go in to the Bible and identify the 12 tribes of Israel who are residing in the earth in the last days. There are certain prophecies that pertain to each son. we're going to also go into a testament of Levi that was given, which you can find in the pseudepigrapha of the Old Testament. The pseudepigrapha of the Old Testament. Okay? Each son, just like Jacob, our father, gave a testimony before he passed. Each of the patriarchs, the 12 tribes of Israel's patriarch fathers, gave a testimony to their sons before they passed. So not only are we going to go into what Jacob said concerning Levi, we'll also go into the testament of Levi himself. So we're going to give you the full understanding according to the Most High. Who Levi is, what were their accomplishments within the Bible as being priests, and where are they today. Also, we're going to show you according to the priesthood, who's the priest today, because you're going to find that Levi, in all his glory, lost his priesthood. We're going to show you how he lost his priesthood, and who the priesthood, who the priesthood goes through today. All right, now let's get Genesis 49.
Genesis chapter 49, verse 1.
Yes.
Then Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Read it again.
Genesis 49, verse 1.
Speaking of Levi.
Then Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
So it says, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. This is our father Jacob on his deathbed. Read.
Verse 5. Simeon and Levi.
A matter of fact, read the second verse.
Verse 2. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father.
And hearken unto Israel your father. So if someone asks you, well, how do we know who the 12 tribes are today? So many things have happened in history. So many things have happened as far as people mixing and people being scattered and going into captivity. So they'll make you believe based on those things we can identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, we know that the Bible tells us that our father Jacob gave prophecies that would only be concerned in the 12 tribes in the last days. So it doesn't matter. It didn't say, well, you're not going to know this if you're scattered or other people come in the mix or you are taken to a different land. It didn't say that you would lose your identity based on these circumstances. So there's still a way to trace who Israel is according to Scripture. Not only according to bloodline, but culture and prophecies that would only pertain to them in the last days. See? Go on. Let's go straight to Levi now. L-E-V-I, which means lawyer. See, and that's where you get the term or the word lawyer from. Okay? Like lawyers who are predominantly, as we know in the United States and the Western world, are Jewish. Right? What shall befall Levi in the last days? Read.
Genesis chapter 49, verse 5 through 7. Simeon and Levi are brethren.
So Simeon, in the last days, you'll find that Simeon and Levi will be residing together. How do you know this? Because all the 12 tribes are brothers. So why is it now making a distinction saying that Simeon and Levi are brethren? Well, in the last days, you'll find them together. See, there's prophecies concerning the scattering of the 12 tribes of Israel. So we know in the last days, we'll find Simeon. Simeon will end up next to Levi, and Levi will end up next to Simeon. Okay? Simeon and Levi are brethren. Read.
Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations.
And in their habitations, where Simeon and Levi is, instruments of cruelty is in their habitation. You're going to find that instrument of cruelty is from a religion that Levi brought with him in slavery. It was a religion of voodoo that he also taught the Dominicans and the other tribes. We're going to go into it. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. But the instruments of cruelty is what? It's their magic, their witchcraft, their priesthood now on the left-hand side. Now Satan is using their priesthood for evil within the earth. Okay? Since they couldn't practice their priesthood under the Levitical priesthood anymore, they began to do it in evil. We're going to go there to identify who's Levi today. But before we go there, we're going back to Genesis 49. Let's go even further back to Levi's birth.
The book of Genesis, the 29th chapter. Genesis chapter 29.
Yes.
Genesis 29 and 34.
Go on.
And she conceived again and bare a son and said.
Who is she? Let's go up to a few verses over.
Verse 31. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated.
Leah was hated, the same as we went into last week. Our mother, the mother of Judah. Read.
And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb.
He opened her womb. Read.
But Rachel was barren.
But Rachel was barren. So he made it where Leah could have more children. And Rachel, no matter how hard she tried with Jacob, the Most High made it where she could not get impregnated at this particular time. Read.
Verse 34. And she conceived again and bare a son and said, Now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi.
His name was called Levi. The lawyer. So Leah not only got blessed with the kings, Leah was blessed with the priest also. Because she was denied love during the time of her husband. Rachel was loved more, so the Most High blessed her with the blessed children that would lead the children of Israel. Judah and Levi both came through Leah. Go on.
Going back to Genesis 49, verse 6.
Come on.
O my soul, come not thou into their secret.
So it says that we're not supposed to come into Levi's secret. Levi's secret is the magic they took amongst them. Their cultural magic that they brought all the way from Africa into their current residing place, which we're going to go into. No matter how, one moment here. One moment. No matter how hard they tried to break Levi during his slavery, Levi held on to certain attributes or strengths and magic. Okay, and we're going to go there in a couple of moments. I apologize for that breaking, but we're right back on here now. Okay. Now we know Levi, according to the Bible, received what we would call, the scriptures call, the priesthood. Now before Israel became a nation, all 12 tribes, Jacob and the 70 souls, walked into Egypt. Now I'm going to progress this so we can get to our modern time. Because we all know the story of Moses, the 12 tribes of Israel coming out of Egypt. All right? But we cannot go into Levi and not speak of one of the greatest Levites to have ever been born, which is Moses. Who is Moses? So we're going to go into that time strictly to concentrate on Levi, Levi's ascension and growth and power in Egypt and in beyond. You're going to find out that Levi not only ruled Egypt under Moses during the time of Moses, because Moses was really controlling everything. When Moses was kicked out of Egypt after he slew the Egyptian, he also became the king of Ethiopia. So Levi ruled Ethiopia too. We're gonna go there. Let's go straight to the story in Exodus, the first chapter.
The book of Exodus, chapter 1, verse 1.
Yes.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into the land of Egypt, or came into Egypt.
Go ahead.
Every man in his household came with Jacob: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and
See,
Judah.
Levi was there too, and Judah. Go on.
Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls.
So here it is. At this time, the children of Israel was not a nation. They were just sons of Shem through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a small family. But we left Egypt in multitudes. Okay? Now, here it is. We got Jacob and the 70 souls, all 12 tribes, well, sons, including Levi, now leaving the land of Canaan, going into the land of Egypt for refuge. At this time, their brother Joseph have risen to king, or second to the king, or hand of the king, over all of Egypt. So these are the 12 princes, including Joseph, who eventually ruled Upper Egypt. Shemites, who today's history call the Hyksos, or shepherd kings. All right, now this is where Israel grew and began to reprocreate and become a great nation within the borders of the land of Egypt. Now follow me clearly. Now after the king that arose over Joseph, during the time of Joseph, after he passed, another king arose who didn't know Joseph and became threatened with our power and influence in Egypt. Let's go there.
Exodus 1 and 6. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation.
So that whole generation died off, but that's after years of reprocreating. And again, I have to mention this. We weren't enslaved in Egypt physically for 400 years. We were enslaved for the number of 210 years. The 400 years is talking about that we will be afflicted was from the time of Isaac, when he first seen the land of Canaan. He had problems with the Egyptians back then. From that time to the Exodus is 400 years. So again, we weren't in hard bondage in slavery in Egypt for 400 years. 210 years, half that time we were in captivity, which is hard bondage. The beginning of our time in Egypt during the Hyksos period, we ruled. We weren't being afflicted. We had power over Egypt for a time. Wanted to put that there. So let's go into what happens once we began to reprocreate and become a mighty people ruling Upper Egypt.
Exodus chapter 1, verse 7.
Read.
And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly.
Yes.
And multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty. And the land was filled with them.
So here it is. We began to multiply, having many children. Okay. Now, of course, the king of Egypt would look to set up some type of eugenics program to keep the population of our people down. Those that overpopulate the other nations will eventually rule the country. Okay, so this is population control going on in Egypt, and all governments does this. If they see a certain ethnicity growing in the realm of their power, they look to stabilize or minimize those people outpopulating the ruling class. See, this happened in Egypt. When we were only 70 souls, we weren't really a threat to them. It was only 70 of us. But we began to multiply and multiply and multiply. And on top of that, we had high prestige. We had high education. We became a threat to the imperialistic powers of Egypt. The king that didn't know, didn't respect our contribution to Egypt. See? So what did he plan? Come on.
Verse 8. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
Go on.
And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
Come on.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us.
Because we were skillful in might, cunning in war. We began to multiply. They were afraid that we would join and make our own army within Egypt and then join into the enemies and take over all the lands altogether. Now, were we planning this? No. But that's the paranoia of the kings who understood the power of the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. See, they had history of our fathers, how Abram, through power, took down the kings of Sodom and all these other nations. They knew how great we could become. We were a threat. So he said, well, let's deal wisely with them and let's focus. Let's aim our focus towards the male child of Israel. We must go at war against the male child. Sounds familiar? Read.
And so get them up out of the land.
We have to get them from out of the land. So were we in the land? Yeah. But it's speaking of rulership positions. So they came up with a conspiracy, and I'm going to go through that in a moment. Because they didn't just say, get out of the rulership positions that Joseph once set you up in. They didn't say it that way. They did it in a political fashion. They claimed that they had some power for us that we can actually operate and deal someplace else. So they offered us some finances and power to operate. We took the bait, and eventually they pulled everything from up under us. And it led to what? Read.
Verse 11. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters.
Taskmasters was set over us, bosses.
To afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses.
Now we know when it says Pithom and Ramesses, these are just the areas in which we built. Okay, these lands weren't in existence as Pithom and Ramesses. Okay, at this time, but it's the same geographical positions as Ramesses. Ramesses came later, but it's the same area that the Ramesses city was built later. Read.
Verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
So they thought if they could put work on us, we'll be too tired to have children. It didn't stop. They put affliction on us, and we still had babies. We worked and had children. So now, they were dealing with a dichotomy here. They was dealing, hold up, I thought that this would slow down their population if we can get them working and have them tired. So what was the next plan?
And they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
So the leaders of Israel, the government, was upset with all this eugenicism in place to try to exterminate us. We still multiplied. The Most High put a spirit on us to have even more babies. Okay, and it grieved the leaders. It grieved the government. And that's what grieves the government today when they see they put all types of Planned Parenthood and abortions and all these things and doing things to the water, vaccines for sterilization. No matter what they try, it grieves them that we still multiply. Okay? To show you it happened to us before. There's nothing new under the sun. Read.
13. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
Come on.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor.
Was with rigor, go on.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives,
The nurses.
of which the name of the first was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah.
Nurses, the same way they set up nurses today to administer the kill shots, the vaccines. Read.
16. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife for the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him.
Kill the son. So they were breaking the boy's neck and saying that the baby died going through birth. But they would check and see what the baby was, boy or girl. And if it had a male member, they would put pressure on the head and break the baby's neck. See, that was your modern day. Well, back then, that's the only level of abortion they knew. Now they'll just take something and stab the child's head and suck it out with a vacuum, or try to preserve the organs for tissue experiments and all types of things now, genetic experiments. They did this back then to our people. Now, a lot of these things we're seeing, or the suffering that's going on amongst the 12 tribes of Israel, Levi was able to actually separate himself from that to some degree. Why? Well, it tells you in the book of Jasher. Let's go there real quick. And for those who don't understand the book of Jasher, understand that the Bible speaks of this particular book. It's the book of the upright ones. That means each leader throughout the Bible that the Most High had a spirit on left a record. And it was placed in the book of Yasher, or Jasher, which was also in the Ark of the Covenant. So let's go to a scripture real quick to confirm the validity of the book of Jasher according to the Bible.
This is Joshua chapter 10, verse 13.
Yes.
Okay. Joshua chapter 10, verse 13.
Read it.
And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies.
Come on.
Is not this written in the book of Jasher?
Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So yes, we found the original record of Jasher. More information, more detailed information concerning the book of Genesis. So when you go into the book of Jasher, it gives you a broader perspective than Genesis. Genesis will give you hundreds of years of history within one chapter without going into the minute stories. Well, Jasher actually magnifies this and go into those periods to give you a more detailed perspective of what was going on there socially. And this is how also we found out. We did the math on the fathers in the Bible and realized there was no way that Israel could have been in captivity for 400 years. So that scripture of 400 years had to be corrected. Right? But the book of Jasher made it clear. Jasher made it clear. It tells you that Israel was actually in hard bondage in Egypt 210 years out of the 400 years starting from the time Isaac seen the land of Canaan. So you see how Jasher helps? So the Bible tells us that the earth would help the woman. These records that the Roman Catholic Church denied us really gives us full detail and understanding on things that churches can never teach or give understanding on. That's why they purposely canonized certain books and withheld certain books of the Hebrews from the population. Now, what happened to Levi during the time that this king arose up who didn't know Joseph? Let's see what happened in detail when they were planning to put us in bondage. What chapter and verse?
It's the book of Jasher, chapter 66, verse 10.
Jasher 66, verse 10.
And in the 125th year of Israel's going down into Egypt,
yes,
all the Egyptians saw that their counsel did not succeed against Israel.
They seen that their counsel did not succeed against Israel,
but that they increased and grew, and the land of Egypt and the land of Goshen were filled with the children of Israel.
Same thing it says in the Bible. They were upset that we kept multiplying. Sounds familiar? That's why now, and I like to relate it to now, they won't tell you. They're upset because they've planned so much against us within the earth. We should be extinct by now. based on all their plans, and it grieves them. You would think after pushing drugs on the people, aborting the people, a campaign to make them feel like second-class citizens, not allowing them to get certain levels of education, separating their families, you name it. The vaccine program, which is being ramped up to just kill us off altogether. You would think that we would be exterminated by now. But it's only through the mercy and grace of the Most High. He's still with us like he was back then. That we're still living and breathing and having children. But go on.
Verse 11. So all the elders of Egypt and its wise men came before the king and bowed down to him and sat before him.
Yes.
And all the children of Egypt and the wise men thereof said unto the king, May the king live forever. Thou didst counsel us to counsel against the children of Israel, and we did unto them according to the word of the king. But in proportion to the increase of the labor, so do they increase and grow in the land. And behold, the whole country is filled with them.
The whole country is filled with them. Sound familiar? Read.
14. Now therefore our Lord and King, the eyes of all Egypt are upon thee to give them advice with thy wisdom, by the which they may prevail over Israel to destroy them or to diminish them from the land. And the king answered them, saying, Give you counsel in this matter, that we may know what to do unto them. And an officer of one of the king's counselors, whose name was Job, from Mesopotamia in the land of Uz, answered the king, saying, If it please the king, let him hear the counsel of his servant. And the king said unto him, Speak. And Job spoke before the king, the princes, and before all the elders of Egypt, saying, Behold, the counsel of the king which he advised formerly respecting the labor of the children of Israel is very good, and you must not remove from them that labor forever. But this is the advice counseled by which you may lessen them, if it seems good to the king to afflict them. Behold, we have feared war for a long time, and we said, when Israel becomes fruitful in the land, they will drive us from the land if a war should take place. If it please the king, let a royal decree go forth, and let it be written in the laws of Egypt, which shall not be revoked, that every male child born to the Israelites, his blood shall be spilled upon the ground. Let me jump down.
Let's go to Levi.
Okay. Let me go back here.
It's fine.
Here it is, chapter 65.
Go ahead.
The book of Jasher, chapter 65, was the wrong chapter.
That's
It
fine.
says 25, verse 25. At the end of the year, in 4 months, all the Egyptians had withdrawn from the children of Israel, so that the children of Israel were alone left to engage in the work. And after all the Egyptians had withdrawn from the children of Israel, they returned and became oppressors and officers over them.
So what happened was the Egyptians were working with another project outside of the capital. And they told all of our hierarchy to go there to rule and operate while they were working. And then eventually the Egyptians gradually just moved out of the way and just left all Israelites there, while they fortified the capital so that we couldn't get back our positions. See, this was gradual. They first started off with a project that was prosperous for everyone. And eventually they left and left us in one area. So now they got all of our rulers and everyone separated from the armies and everything. And after that, they began to pull back the wages. Gradually, they would pay us less and less and less until it was nothing at all. And by that time, Egypt had full control of the armies. So when it says get them out of the land, we were in position of influence over Egyptians' armies and everything, their officers and everything. So they had to move us from the position of authority gradually. And when they finally got the army under the Egyptian power, they began to pull back the wages. And eventually, we became servants in Egypt. See? Read.
And some of them stood over the children of Israel as taskmasters,
Read.
to receive from them all that they gave them for the pay of their labor. And the Egyptians did in this manner to the children of Israel day by day, in order to afflict them in their work. And all the children of Israel alone engaged in the labor, and the Egyptians refrained from giving any pay to the children of Israel from that time forward.
So it wasn't like our captivity in America, see, where they just took us from the shores and by default we just became servants. This was a gradual operation, an austerity measure that led to us having nothing at all in Egypt and losing all our prestige, power, and finances. The only thing we had left was the land of Goshen. Do you understand? But outside of that, we had no influence or power in Egypt. And eventually the armies began to come against us. Sounds familiar? See? That's how they do it. They're doing it now, where they're gradually pulling back the pay. You can't find jobs. You can't do certain things. You're limited in what you can do. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. See, it was through the finances. See, it's really a financial wage type captivity where they pull the wages back and by default you have no options. See, same thing they did in Egypt. Go on.
29. And when some of the men of Israel refused to work on account of the wages not being given to them, then the exactors and the servants of Pharaoh oppressed them and smote them with heavy blows, and made them return by force to labor with their brethren. Thus did all the Egyptians unto the children of Israel all the days. And all the children of Israel were greatly afraid of the Egyptians in this matter. And all the children of Israel returned and worked along without pay. And the children of Israel built Pithom and Ramesses. And all the children of Israel did the great work, or did the work, some making bricks, and some building. And the children of Israel built and fortified all the land of Egypt and its walls. And the children of Israel were engaged in work for many years.
Now when it says Pithom and Ramesses, I still like to emphasize, these lands were titled these later on down the line. Now these were the areas that will eventually become Pithom and Ramesses. Okay, read on.
Until the time when the Lord remembered them and brought them out of Egypt. But the children of Levi...
But the children of who?
Levi were not employed in the work with their brethren of Israel.
Why? Read.
From the beginning unto the day of their going forth from Egypt. For all the children of Levi knew that the Egyptians had spoken all these words with deceit to the Israelites. Therefore the children of Levi refrained from approaching to the work with their brethren.
Levi never went to work amongst them. He knew that this was a plot. And you know our people, they can be warned and everything, man. I'm telling you, they're trying to trick us. They're trying to move us someplace. And they would be like, man, we can come up right here. You see this? Right. We're going to get our own thing. So we thought that, you know Levi, he being a brother, he spoke to his brothers about it. He's like, listen, y'all can go. My family's not going. If y'all go there, I'm telling you, they're up to something. But Levi stayed back. So Levi didn't send none of his sons there. See? Now this gives us an understanding how there was a little separation or difference even in Egypt concerning the power of the 12 tribes and the power of Levi too, because Levi wasn't broken. So eventually somebody would come through Levi that wasn't even a part of that whole mix that would actually rule Egypt, that would be in a position of power. Levi said no, but the Most High had him separated. Now I'm looking at it scripturally. The Most High always had Levi separated for the priesthood. So he showed Levi, don't go there. No, stay back. So this plot, Levi was able to escape a lot of these plots because their family were separated to some degree. Read on.
34, last verse. It says, and the Egyptians did not direct their attention to make the children of Levi work afterward, since they had not been with their brethren at the beginning.
Come on.
Therefore the Egyptians left them alone.
Now let's go straight to Moses, because out of Levi came who? Moses. Let's go to where our brother, one of the leaders, the top prophets, was born. We're going there. Levi, Moses. Moses is the author, or what you would call, the Spirit was on him to deal with the authority of the first 5 books that we're reading. Let's go.
This is Jasher 68 and 1.
No, let's go straight in the Bible
Oh,
on
Bible.
Moses.
Okay.
Yes.
Moses.
We're going to fast track, but let me just set it here so we'll understand what people we're dealing with here.
This is the book of Exodus chapter 2 verse 1.
Go on.
And there went a man of the house of Levi and took a wife, a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off to what would be done to him.
Go on.
And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child and said, Behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, This is one of the Hebrews' children.
This is one of the Hebrews' children. Now, this is at the time where they're slaughtering our firstborn. The Levites, they started getting dealt with too. But Moses' mother and father said, no, let's put him on the water. And let's put him on the water, and the Most High will guide him. He was guided into Egypt, where one of the high women of Egypt found him. That's a story you see in the 10 Commandments, or what you would call the Prince of Egypt. So they knew this was a Hebrew child. Okay? And not only that, when Moses grew, one of the sons of Levi, he grew with the full knowledge that he was a Levite or Hebrew the whole time. Now, it was no mystery to have a Hebrew amongst Egyptians. That was no secret. We not too long ruled with Egypt, ruled over Egypt. But the Most High put his spirit over it to do what? To protect this child, to adopt this child. And to prove to you, we know that Moses always knew. She called for Moses' mother to wean him. So the mother, his physical mother, was feeding him every day. Breast milk. So he grew knowing his family, having power in Egypt, and the Most High was setting the stage for something greater, a deliverance. Read.
Verse 7. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women? And she said, May the nurse, that she may nurse the child for thee. And
Yes.
Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages.
There you go.
And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses.
Maishah, Moses. Read.
And she said, Because I drew him out of the water.
So here it is. He's being raised now a prince of Egypt. A Levite is now second in Egypt. After the king passed, he'll be second in Egypt. See, a Levite. Now let's chart this, because it came a time where Moses couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't take hearing how the Egyptians were speaking about his people as subservience, when he knew how great our people were and he understood the God of his fathers. He couldn't take it no more, how the Egyptians and other nations who were in league with Egypt, he couldn't take how they were treating us. And it came to a point where they would treat us like nothing, want to kill us and just destroy us without there being any reprimand or repercussion. We became as if our life amounted to nothing. Similar to now, right? We could be killed or destroyed anywhere and no one will bat an eye. It's as if there's no repercussion for a Hebrew's life. Well, that happened in Egypt. Moses, growing up with the Egyptians, seeing their plot against us and their racism and hatred against us, stood up. Let's go to the point of when he couldn't take it no more.
This is Genesis 2, Exodus 2 and 11.
Yes.
And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens, and spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren.
So he knew he was a Hebrew, right? And I'm saying this because they show you in these movies something that Moses was surprised when he found out that he was a Hebrew. Like he was going through some type of emotional struggle. You understand, being an Egyptian and all that. And then he finally found that out. That's all for theater. He always knew he was Hebrew. So he's seen someone smiting an Egyptian, beating his brother. And did what?
Verse 12. And he looked this way and that way.
He looked on both ways. Okay, no one's looking.
And when he saw that there was no man,
okay,
he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
He killed him and buried him in the sand. Read.
13. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strolled together. And he said to them that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian?
So these were what? Hebrews, right?
Right, exactly.
These were brothers. To show you the mindset, what goes, this got to be Israel. He helping our people. And it's like, well, who made you Lord over us?
Right.
Are you going to beat us like you did that Egyptian? We seen what you did to that Egyptian.
Right.
You would think that the Hebrews would be like, brother, thank you. I appreciate it.
Exactly.
But no, you slew our you slew our beater. He was oppressing us. What's wrong with you? You trying to free us? Tell me this is not Israel right here. Are you going to do to me what you did to those Egyptians? So now Moses knows, say, okay, the word is out. I did this. Eventually, this is treason. So now if they know, then this has been spread throughout every place here. So I have to save myself. So read on.
And Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known.
It's known. If they talking about it, it's spread all over the place now. Read.
15. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well.
Now this goes into Midian. But there's something happened in between this time before he went to Midian. Don't forget, when Moses left Egypt, he didn't come back to Egypt until 40 some odd years later. He came back old. See? So now, like I tell you, like the Bible is sometimes like a microcosm with many years skipped. So let's see what happened when our Levite brother, who was once second to all of Egypt, once he left out of Egypt. Let's go back into the book of Jasher.
This is the book of Jasher, chapter 72.
Chapter 72.
It says, And it was in those days that there was a great war between the children of Cush and the children of the east and Aram.
Cush is the Ethiopians.
And they rebelled against the king of Cush in those days, whose hand they were.
Go on.
Whose hands they were. And Cocainus, king of Cush, went forth with all the children of Cush, a people numerous as the sand. And he went to fight against Aram and the children of the east, to bring them under subjection. And when Cocainus went out, he left Balaam the magician with his 2 sons to guard the city, and the lowest sort of the people of the land. And Cocainus went forth to Aram and the children of the east, and he fought against them and smote them. And they all fell down wounded before Cocainus and his people.
Come on.
And he took many of them captives, and he brought them under subjection at first. And he encamped upon their land to take tribute from them as usual. We jump down here.
Go straight to Moses.
This is verse 22. And Moses was 18 years old when he fled from Egypt.
He was 18 years old when he fled Egypt.
And
After he killed that Egyptian. 18 years of age. Read.
when he fled from Egypt from the presence of Pharaoh. And he fled and escaped to the camp of Cocainus, which at that time was besieging Cush.
See that? Read.
And Moses was 9 years in the camp of Cocainus, king of Cush.
So now he's 27 years old in the camp of Cush. Cush is Ethiopians. Read.
All the time that they were besieging Cush. And Moses went out and came in with them. And the king and princes and the fighting men loved Moses, for he was great and worthy. His stature was like a noble lion. His face was like the sun.
So, and this is where Levi also learned the skills of war. And see, this is what they learned, the Levites learned in Egypt and afterwards. To be skillful, not only in physical war, but the planning and the schematics of war. How to set up a war. How to accomplish a war and succeed in war. Okay? Great planners. And this comes into something we're going to show you based on the modern day Levites. Read.
His stature was like a noble lion.
Come on.
His face was like the sun. And his strength was like that of a lion.
Come on.
And he was counselor to the king. And at the end of 9 years, Cocainus was seized with a mortal disease, and his illness prevailed over him.
Read.
And he died on the 7th day. So his servants embalmed him and carried and buried him opposite the city to the north of the land of Egypt.
Come on.
And he built over him an elegant and strong high building, and they placed great stones below. And the king's scribes engraved upon those stones all the might of their king Cocainus, and all his battles which he had fought. Behold, they were written at this day. And now after the death of Cocainus, king of Cush, it grieved his men and his troops greatly on account of the war. So they said one to another, Give us counsel what we are to do at this time, as we have resided in the wilderness 9 years away from our homes. If we will stay and fight against the city, many of us will fall wounded or killed. And if we remain here in the siege, we shall also die.
Come on.
For now all the children of Aram and of the children of the east will hear that our king is dead, and they will attack us suddenly in a hostile manner. And they will fight against us and leave no remnant of us. Now therefore, let us go make us a king over us, and let us remain in the siege until the city is delivered up to us.
Read.
And they wished to choose on that day a man for king from the army of Cocainus. And they found no object like their choice, no object of their choice like Moses.
Like who?
Like Moses.
Like Moses.
To reign over them. And they hastened and stripped off each man his garment and cast them upon the ground. And they made a great heap and placed Moses thereon. And they rose up and blew with trumpets and called out before him and said, May the king live, may the king live.
So now Moses becomes king over Ethiopia, a Levite. He marries the widowed queen and gained full power for a time. So when you look at that Ethiopian in the time that we were exiting, that Miriam and Aaron was against, it was his wife that he was bringing in the camp. that accepted him and upheld him during the time when he was rejected out of Egypt. See how it's all coming together here? So Levi not only had the power to rule and have the schematics and understanding on how to rule Egypt, he also ruled other parts of northern Africa, like Ethiopia. So he was one of the great Ethiopian kings. Later on, in his older age, the Most High had him go into Midian, where he would reveal himself because the sins of the Amorites came to the fullness, and it was time for the Most High to deliver his people and give them the land of Canaan. And that's when he sent Moses back, a Levite. Are you following me here? Let's go to Exodus 3, where the Most High reveals to Levi his name.
Exodus chapter 3, verse 13.
Come on.
And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers have sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name?
Come on.
What shall I say unto them?
So he says, well, I'm about to go back to Egypt. They're going to ask, well, what is your name? The reason he said that is because there's many names of gods in Egypt. So who can I say is you? To show you the polytheism that was going on, the paganism that was going on in Africa and in Egypt. They had many names for gods. So he's saying they're going to ask me when I come to deliver my people, they're going to ask me what God sent you. What God? And what did the Most High say?
Verse 14. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am.
I am that I am, the answer for his name. And tell him what?
And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am have sent me unto you.
Ahiah have sent me unto you. At this time, none of the 12 tribes in Egypt know the Most High's name. When the Most High gave Moses this, he was known as the God Almighty, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but his name was not revealed unto the Levite Moses delivered it to them. See? Ahiah is his name. Now, let's go into the Pseudepigrapha, into the Testament of Levi, so that we can speed this up and bring this up today, so you'll know who Levi is in the earth today. It's in the Testament of the 12 patriarchs. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What chapter and verse are you at there?
I'm going to start in chapter 2.
Okay, one moment. Now, but you're going to get certain parts out of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 2 and what verse?
Verse 3.
Go ahead.
It says, I, Levi, was conceived in Haran and born there. And after that I came to my father to Shechem. And when I was young, about 20 years of age, when with Simeon I wrought the vengeance on Hamor for our sister Dinah.
So this is Levi, the father of all the Levites, giving his testimony before he died to his sons. Read.
And when we were feeding our flocks in Abel Mall, a spirit of understanding of the Lord came upon me, and I saw all men corrupting their way, and that unrighteousness had built itself walls, and iniquity sat upon towers. And I grieved for the race of men, and I prayed to the Lord that I might be saved. Jumping down to verse 10, it says, And the angel said unto me, Marvel not at these, for thou shalt see 4 other heavens brighter than these, and without comparison, when thou shalt have ascended thither. Because thou shalt stand near the Lord, and shalt be his minister, and shalt declare his mysteries to men, and shall proclaim concerning him who shall redeem Israel. And by thee and Judah shall the Lord appear among men, saving in them every race.
That means through Judah and Levi, the Most High will do what? Save every race. Now, how does this link in together where Judah and Levi saves every race? Well, we're going to go into that later on down the line. It says, through Judah and Levi, the Most High will save every race, right? I'm going to show you. Save is Yeshua or Yeshaya. So that means Christ would actually come through the seed of Judah. And on another side, there will be Levi operating in the family too. And we're going to go there.
John the Baptist.
John the Baptist, exactly, who led the way for Christ. Because John's father was what? Levi. Okay? And he was married to Elizabeth, the cousin of Mary. So through those two bloodlines, they would come together where Christ would be king and priest. After the fall of Levi, after the fall of Judah. Are you following me here? What else you have on that?
This is chapter 3, Levi being shown the spirit realm.
And this is Levi, as he mentioned, Elder Lawyer has mentioned, being shown the spiritual realm. Outside of our dimension.
It says, here then, this is chapter 3, here then concerning the seven heavens, the lowest is for this cause more gloomy.
Go on.
In that it is near all the iniquities of men. The second have fire, snow, ice, ready for the day of the ordinance of the Lord, and the righteous judgment of God. In it are all the spirits of the retributions for the vengeance on the wicked. And the third are the host of the armies which are ordained for the day of judgment, to work vengeance on the spirits of deceit and of Beliar. And the heavens up to the fourth above these are holy, for in the highest of all dwelleth the great glory, and the holy of holies far above all holiness. And the heavens next to it are the angels of the presence of the Lord, who minister and make propitiation to the Lord for all the ignorances of the righteous. And they offer to the Lord a reasonable sweet-smelling savor and a bloodless offer. And in the heaven below are the angels who bear the answers to the angels of the presence of the Lord. And in the heavens next to this are thrones, dominions, in which hymns are offered to God. Therefore, whenever the Lord looketh upon us, all of us are shaken, yea, the heavens and the earth, and the abysses are shaken at the presence of his majesty. But the sons of men, regarding not these things, sin and provoke the Most High.
So he was shown all the heavens and reason for fearing the Most High. That because of the sons of men ignored this existence that happened, they continued to sin against him. That's what Levi was shown, the father. Go on.
Just one last thing, chapter 4, verses 2 through 5, showing Levi's fall. Therefore the Most High have heard the prayer to separate thee from iniquity.
So the Most High eventually, when Israel fall, well, we know Israel fell during the time of Judah, that the Most High would set a family out of Levi aside for himself. We're going to go there. Read.
Therefore the Most High have heard thy prayer to separate thee from iniquity, that thou should become his son, become to him a son, and a servant and a minister of his presence. A shining of light of knowledge shalt thou shine in Jacob, and the son shalt thou be to all the seed of Israel. And as a blessing shall be given to thee and to all thy seed, until the Lord shall visit the heathen in the tender mercies of his Son, even forever. Nevertheless, thy son shall lay hands upon him and crucify him.
Speaking of Christ.
And therefore have counsel and understanding been given thee.
So he even showed that even though Levi would be separated, it would come a time that Levi, the Levitical priest, would sin and eventually kill Christ. and be a part of Christ's judgment.
Mhm.
Now just imagine that, where Christ comes on the earth to deliver his people as a sacrifice at this time. And the priests who know the law was given to them is responsible in judgment against the Son of the Most High. Levi was shown that his own sons would help kill the Son of the Most High in the future. The priest. Go on.
And therefore have counsel and understanding been given thee, that thou mightest instruct thy sons concerning him, because he that blesseth him shall be blessed, but they that curse him shall perish.
Go on.
Jumping down.
Yeah, let's get only a few things more out of that.
In fact, we can close out on that.
Okay, that's good.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
There's many other things
Yes, a lot.
that's within the testament of Levi, but because this is time sensitive, you would probably need to get that yourself, the rest of it. But we're going to go into the history, bringing us up to date, because I know that's what you're waiting for. So when you look at the testament of Levi from the pseudepigrapha of the Old Testament, make sure it's the R.H. Charles translation, and it'll go into all the testimonies of the 12 patriarchs, not just Levi. All our fathers of the 12 tribes left a testimony of what would befall their children. Now, going forward, we know that after we left Egypt, the children of Israel, that the Most High made Moses and his brother Aaron priests. So in respect of Moses, the Most High would have a priestly line through Aaron's sons. Now there was one son in particular that bare the ark. His sons were responsible strictly for bearing the ark of the covenant. And those were the sons of Zadok. Now we know that the Levites dealt with all the priestly realms of the tabernacle. You had some that was just responsible for the artifacts and keeping them clean and shine. Some of the sons dealt strictly with the temple and keeping the temple together. You understand, with making sure it's dressed, make sure it's clean. You had some people of Levites who was meant to guard the temple, and that's all they did. Well, the sons of Zadok were special. They could hold the Ark of the Covenant with all the power of the Most High in it. It was these that the Most High separated for the sake of Moses and Aaron once we fell under the Babylonian Empire. And there was a decree by the other nations to find them in hopes of destroying their records that would help us awaken in the last days. They were afraid that the sons of Zadok escaped because they needed to distort our records and turn our records against us. But through the Spirit of the Most High, he kept the sons of Zadok separate. And in today we can find it in the same place, the pseudepigrapha of the Old Testament. We can find it in the Zadokite works, which links directly to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Everything in the Dead Sea Scrolls, a lot of it, the majority of it, can be read in the Zadokites' works. This is Oxford University, brothers and sisters. Oxford. They had this the whole time and knew it, but they'll never tell you. They even know who Levi is right now. They won't tell you. But the Most High preserved the priests that held the ark. Let's go straight to the sons of Zadok real quick.
This is 2 Samuel 15 and 24.
2 Samuel 15 and 24, read.
It says, And lo, Zadok also and all the Levites were with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God, and they set down the ark of God.
Come on.
And Abiathar went up until all the people had done passing out of the city. And the king said unto Zadok, Carry back the ark of God into the city, and if I shall find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again, and show me both and his habitation. But if he thus say, I have no delight in thee, behold, here am I. Let him do to me as seemeth good unto him. And the king also And the king said also unto Zadok the priest, Art thou not a seer? Return into the city in peace, and your 2 sons with you, Ahimaaz thy son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. Verse 28, See, I will tarry in the plain of the wilderness, until there come word from you to certify me. Zadok therefore and Abiathar carried the ark of God again to Jerusalem, and they tarried there.
And they tarried there. So Zadok and the Zadokite work, or the Zadokites, were the bearers of the Ark of the Covenant. So no soon as they were looking to destroy us, the Most High had Jeremiah hide the ark, but there was certain information in it that the sons of Zadok took and hid. These are called today the Essenes. The Essenes, who made the earthen pots to hide the records. So they rescribed all of our records, knowing that the Gentiles were going to put their hands in them and try to distort the book and turn it against us. So they wrote all the scriptures and all the records and hid it in an earthy pot like the Most High showed them, so that at the very end we could be received back with our records untainted by the Gentiles. And that happened during our fall of Babylon. The Most High said, go now. If you don't do this, we're not going to have nothing left. The devil is seeking our records, seeking your records. You will never find your way back if you don't hide these. So with this information, along with the Bible, we have the complete instruction. See? Let's read this out of the Zadokite work, chapter 7. We're not going to read it all, but we're going to, now we mainstream into Babylon about a half a century before Christ here. Right? One moment. Let me get it here. Something I actually brought out a few weeks ago that's in the Zadokite work that's real deep. That's why I want to read it again. Yeah, here it is right here. I want you to read it right here out of the book. Start at 7 and 1. There's something I want to read coming down past. I want you to read all of that down to Jokaniah. All right? Mm-hmm. Read.
This is fragments of the Zadokite work, chapter 7, verse 1.
Yes.
The builders of the wall who walk after law. The law it is which talks, of which he said, but shortly they shall talk, are caught by fornication.
He says, surely they will talk. Speaking of the builders of the wall, that links directly to what we were shown with the 12 patriarchs and Levi. Surely they will talk.
Are caught by 2.
They're caught by 2.
By fornication and taking 2 wives.
By taking 2 wives. These were Zadokites, the priests. They caught in fornication by taking 2 wives.
During their lifetime.
During their lifetime.
But the fundamental principle of creation. Is male and female created he then.
He didn't make 3. He made one man, and pulled a woman from man, whose name is woman. From man. He didn't make 3. So the sons of Zadok understood that this would be sin that would permeate amongst our people, that would spread a sin. Read.
And they who went into the ark, 2 and 2 went into the ark.
That's why the Most High didn't have any man with multiple wives go into the ark. That's why the Most High made sure that each animal had 1 mate to signify what was there during creation. The sons of Zadok sets everything straight. Read.
And as to the prince, it is written.
And as to the prince, it is written. We know that we are prince of the power of Israel, but it's speaking of the king. Read.
He shall not multiply wives unto himself.
He shall not multiply wives unto himself. Read.
But David read not in the book of the law that was sealed.
But David didn't read in the book of the law that was sealed. Read.
Which was in the ark.
But it was in the ark.
for it was not opened in Israel from the day of the death of Eleazar and Joshua and the elders who served Ashtaroth.
So it was closed during this period of time. And during this time, David didn't see what was in the ark. That's why he sinned. And the kings after David begin to sin, thinking they can have more than one wife. Read.
And it was hidden and was not discovered until Zadok arose.
And it wasn't discovered until Zadok arose. The one we read during the time of Samuel. That's when the information was there that our people were walking in error. Our kings began to error. Read, even past that. Read.
Now they glorified the deeds of David, save only the blood of Uriah, and God abandoned them to him. And they also pollute the sanctuary, since they separate not according to the law.
He says they pollute the sanctuary by what? By not separating according to the law. Check this out. Read.
And lie with her who sees the blood of her issue.
They began to lie with women without dealing with that 7-day separation. So the Levites started going off and not having that 7-day separation and started dealing with their women during the time of their issue period. Read.
And they take to wife each his brother's daughter or his sister's daughter.
And they started dealing with their nephews and nieces. This is what Israel started doing. Read.
But Moses said, Thou shalt not approach thy mother's sister. She is thy mother's near kin.
So what we're showing you is the sons of Zadok understood the spirituality part of the law given to Moses. There was a higher level of understanding of the law than what we had after the captivity of Babylon. All the way up into the time we fell and the Sanhedrin was operating under Rome, the law was totally tainted. And the majority of us that look at the law today are looking to follow it according to the pattern of when we were already fallen as a people. We actually studying it according to the culture of Babylon when we fell as a people. But the sons of Zadok had it intact according to the Spirit. See? And a lot of our brothers out there are not looking at it from that vantage point. But I like to go there because these were they who kept it pure, that the Most High separated from the rest of the priests who fell. Eventually, Levi began to do evil and teach evil in the temple, and the Most High took Levi out. They were responsible for giving us the law. And to whom is much is given, much is required. So eventually the Most High would make Levi not the top as they once were, but the bottom. Read.
So the law of intercourse for males is written, and the same law holds for females. And let not the daughter of the brother uncover the nakedness of the brother of her father. He is near of kin. They also polluted their Holy Spirit, and with a tongue of blasphemies they opened the mouth against the statutes of the covenant of God, saying, They are not established.
Then they started saying, well, we don't got to follow the laws anymore. We can set up our own laws based on filthy lucre. They started setting up their own laws, similar to what we see today, where now man is establishing their own law, while the Most High law is placed aside. There was a penalty for this. Read.
But abominations they speak regarding them. They are all kindlers of fire and setters of flame of firebrands. The webs of spiders are their weavings, and the eggs of cockatrices are their eggs. He who comes near them shall not be innocent. He that chooseth them shall be held guilty unless he was forced. Aforetime God visited their works, and his wrath was kindled because of their devices. For it is a people of no understanding. They are a nation void of counsel, because there is no understanding in them.
So they started to get to the point where no one can show them anything. They became too proud. They became void of understanding. We're Levi. Who can tell us anything? We're the priests. Well, a judgment came. The Most High separated just the sons of Zadok, and the rest was destroyed. Let's go to Malachi, the 2nd chapter. So they had to fulfill the scattering too. Last week we went into the scattering of Judah and the 12 tribes. Well, guess what? Levi was scattered too. And we know where they are in the earth predominantly today. Okay? They're not Europeans. They're not of European stock at all. The only reason Europeans were able to stake claim to Levitical priesthood or to Levites or to any children of Israel was because of the void that was left due to Levi's curse. Because there was no one to claim Levi, they claimed it. Okay? Let's go to what happened to Malachi, the Levi, according to the Most High.
Malachi chapter 2, verse 1.
Read.
And now, O ye priests,
O ye priests, speaking of Levi,
this commandment is for you. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, saith the Lord of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces.
I will spread dung upon your faces. They'll be living in sewage. That's the future prophecy of the Bible concerning those who were once priests of the Most High, to the point where they were the cleanest people on earth. It was through them clean was determined. Okay? They could tell you what was clean and unclean because they were the cleanest people. He says, I'm going to make it where you're living in dung. The water you drink will be dung. The food you eat, dung would be in it. Dung is feces. So the Most High separated Zadok for his purpose, and the rest he cursed with a curse. Read.
Behold, I will corrupt your seed.
I will corrupt your seed.
And spread dung upon your faces.
Go on.
Even the dung of your solemn feast. And one shall take you away with it.
And one shall take you away with it. Go on.
And ye shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. My covenant was with him of life and peace. And I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and he was afraid before my name. The law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips.
Levi was once pure. Read.
He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they shall seek the law at his mouth. For he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts. But ye are departed out of the way.
But you stop representing me. That's what the Most High is saying here. He says you stop being my representation on earth. You stop speaking concerning the law. The Most High is going to go into it. Read.
Ye have caused many to stumble at the law.
Read.
Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith the Lord of hosts.
Go on.
Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people.
That means you'll be at the bottom of all people before it's over. Speaking of all the tribes. Read.
Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Have we not all one Father? Have not one God created us? Why do we deal treacherously every man against his brother, by profaning the covenant of our fathers? Judah have dealt treacherously.
And we did treacherous too. It was the kings and priests. That's why the whole Israel have been scattered. Those that were responsible for leading and guiding the people fell. Read.
And an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem.
Israel and in Jerusalem. Speaking of the whole 12 tribes. Israel and Jerusalem is now the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. All of Israel is tainted. Now there's no priesthood, no kings. There's no other place left on earth for Israel but to serve the other nations. That's the only place that's left. We vacated our power by vacating the only God who could have given us power. See? And no sooner as the Most High moved his spirit from Israel, the Gentiles began to put their claws in us. At one point, there was a hedge to protect us. But as soon as they knew the Most High was no longer with us, they came. See? Read.
The rest of verse 11. For Judah hath profaned the holiness of the Lord which he loved, and hath married the daughter of a strange god. The Lord will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of all the tabernacles of Jacob. And
so we begin to intermarry with the women of strange gods, which was a curse to us. Mm-hmm. And it continued to be a curse to us. Read.
The master and the scholar out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offer an offering unto the Lord of hosts. And this have ye done again, covering the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping, and with crying out, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering any more, or receiveth it with good will at your hand. Yet ye say, wherefore? Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth.
He says, so why? Why aren't you listening to us? We cry with tears for you to help us. Why aren't you helping us? That's what the priest and Judah is asking. Lord, look at our condition. Why aren't you helping? He said, because you continue in your sin. He wants us to go back and recognize where we began to fall. And it wasn't just back then, us now. He keep on taking us around in circles till we recognize our error against him. See? That's how it works. Read.
Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously, yet is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant.
The wife of our youth, according to scriptures, is our women. Mm-hmm. We have denounced and renounced our own people. See, that's what the Most High says here. When we receive a blessing, we are supposed to bless and help. That's Israel and Judah. See? Now, moving forward. Later on, the Levites, when you look at history during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes, he was a Greek that came into play and began to take down Jerusalem and only left a few Levite priests and began to put Gentiles in place. We speaking about... Huh? Yeah, but Antiochus started it first, and then later on, Herod continued. Okay, so you had Antiochus, who started coming in Jerusalem around 150, around that area, started bringing forth Gentile practices and looking towards the priesthood. And then later on down the line, then you had Herod, who just started bombarding the temple with Gentiles. Edomites and all that, to be over the Sanhedrin, and there was only a few Levites left during the time of Christ. By the time Christ came on the scene, Levi was totally ran over. There's only a few people left who were priests. Well, it so happened, Mary's brother-in-law was one of the few remnants that was still left during the time of Christ's birth. Let's go there real quick. Let's go to the book of Luke.
St. Luke chapter 1.
Zacharias. Remember when it says that that a path will be made through Levi that would eventually save? Well, who paved the way for Christ? John the Baptist. Follow me clearly here. Now here's Levi now operating right at the time before Christ's birth. Read.
St. Luke chapter 1 verse 5. There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zachariah, of the course of Abiah, and his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth.
See that? These are Levites. This is the cousin of Mary. Mary was part Levite on her mother's side. So here it is. Christ would come through Judah and Levi, king and priest. Read.
Verse 6. And they were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blameless. And they had no child because Elizabeth was barren.
Go on.
And they both were now well stricken in years. And it came to pass while he executed the priest's office before God in the order of his course, according to the custom of the priest's office, his lot was to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord. And the whole multitude of the people were praying without at the time of incense. And there appeared unto him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar of incense. And when Zacharias saw him, he was troubled, and fear fell upon him. And the angel said unto him, Fear not, Zacharias, for thy prayer is heard, and thy wife Elizabeth shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name John.
Thou shalt call his name John. Read.
And thou shalt have joy and gladness, and many shall rejoice at his birth. For he shall be great in the sight of the Lord, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink. And when he shall be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb, and many of the children of...
He shall be what?
Filled with the Holy Spirit.
He shall be filled with the Holy Spirit.
Even from his mother's womb.
Even from his mother's womb. So John was also born of the Holy Spirit. He had father and mother, Zacharias and Elizabeth, but born of the Holy Spirit. Now John would be considered what? His father was a Levite priest. He would be considered what? A Levite priest. He was a Levite priest that was paving the way for his cousin, the Judite king, Christ, who would take over the priesthood, which was prophesied in the testament of Levi. Are you following me here? Now let's get Hebrews 7 real quick. Now the Levites at this time has fallen to the Sanhedrin. No longer do Levi have power and counsel over Israel anymore. That's relegated to the Romans during Christ's time. See? Now the Sanhedrin held the priesthood over the people. Like a modern day city council of mayors. It was actually a Roman institution that integrated our people who were compromised. See? So now during Christ's time, when Christ came on the scene, there was no more real priesthood. The sons of Zadok was already separated. By the time Christ came on the scene, those that were over the Sanhedrin had a watered down understanding of the law and tried to contend against Christ with a watered down version. And they couldn't stand. They couldn't stand with him because Christ embodied the law. See, he understood the law, so they couldn't contend with him. Let's go. Let's go to Hebrews 7. Speaking of the priesthood.
Hebrews 7:1.
Yes.
For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings, and blessed him.
Melchizedek or Melchizedek means what? King and priest. So eventually, the kingship that was given to Judah and the priesthood that was given to Levi would eventually unite like it was in the beginning. Okay? Before the 12 tribes of Israel were on the scene, the patriarch was king and priest. Adam, king and priest. Enoch, king and priest. Noah, king and priest. Shem, king and priest. Abraham, king and priest. Isaac, king and priest. Jacob, king and priest. And it wasn't until the sons came out that it was separated, where one would deal with one and the other child would deal with the other. Melchizedek means one man with both titles. Are you following me? So now Christ, after we fell, would have to fulfill both positions that was vacated by us to bring back the righteous kingdom under righteous priest. That's the order of Melchizedek, because Melchizedek is Shem, who taught Abram the law and taught Abram how to rule after the flood. Now Christ would have to come in that same vein. Read.
Jumping down to verse 11. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood,
To show you that it wasn't perfect.
for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek?
That tell you that the Levitical priesthood wasn't finished, that it had to be accomplished or completed under a original order that was set up before Levi was born. Read.
And not be called after the order of Aaron.
So now the priesthood is no longer called after the order of Aaron like was set up in the Old Testament. And I'm saying that because you have a lot of Levites now who are finding out who they are, and they're still exercising the same duties of Aaron, thinking that they're priests without accepting Christ. We're going to point out some. Till this day, you're not a priest. I don't care how many Torahs you're holding up. You are not a priest. The priesthood fell. You don't have no people to be priests over. You don't have no kingdom to establish the law. So how are you priest? Read.
Verse 12. For the priesthood being changed.
It was what?
For the priesthood being changed.
So it's not changed. I mean, it's changed now, not according to the old customs. Read.
There is made of necessity a change also of the law.
Of the law. That's talking about the position of who would take the priesthood. Read. One moment. Hold on. Go on.
Verse 13. For he of whom these things are spoken pertaineth to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah.
Our Lord sprang out of Judah, speaking of Christ.
Of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood.
Exactly. Read.
And it is yet far more evident that after the similitude of Melchizedek there ariseth another priest, who was made not after the law of a carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life.
Speaking of Christ, he's the king and priest. And we cannot become a royal priesthood. We'll never become a royal priesthood unless we go through him and receive it. Mm-hmm. So the same way the Most High gave a priesthood from the beginning in the Old Testament, the new priesthood must be given through him. We fell from the old. We're not going to get it like we had it in the past. We must come the new path to be received as kings and priests now. That's why we're going through this purging as a people. One moment. One moment. Okay, one moment. All right, picking up from where we left. Go on.
Hebrews chapter 7, verses 17.
Come on.
For he testifieth, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek.
So Christ is a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Okay? That's the order of the priesthood. Okay, and I'm putting that out there to show you that now the king and priest still stands, but it's under an order with Christ now. He distributes the positions according to his church. Okay, that's how it works. Those positions are now administered through Christ's work. No longer under the old customs. Now, we all know that eventually Judah, Benjamin, and Levi fell in 70 AD like we went through last week. Let's touch on that, and we're going to go to where they are today. We're going to chart their diaspora. Where did they spread? Where did they go? We know that according to Deuteronomy 28 and 64, Israel would be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Well, where's Levi? Let's go back to Luke, like we did last week, and we're going to show you where they fled into Africa.
Book of St. Luke, chapter 21, verse 20.
Read.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Go ahead.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
Flee to the mountains. So as we went through last week, we seen that Israel went over the Atlas Mountains around Morocco and started migrating into different parts of Africa. Now we know that Africa is the wilderness that was prepared, an extension of our land that was prepared for us from the face of the serpent or the Roman Empire. A lot of people look at Africa as the land of Ham and the whole land of Ham, and they are in error in thinking that. When you look at the sons of Ham, Ham was predominantly given the northern parts of Africa. You look at Egypt. You look at Ethiopia. You look at the Canaanites. Okay? And you look at the Libyans. These all four families of Ham only reside in the top part of Africa. The rest of Africa would be a wilderness or an extension of the land of Canaan for the children of Israel. Okay? So unless you're in the northern parts, the original families that were there, if you're scattered throughout the rest of Africa, you are the seeds of Israel. Now it's time to show who went where. We're keying on who? Levi. So eventually, according to Christ's word, there would be a destruction. The Romans destroyed us in 70 AD. And eventually, we fled into Africa. Where did Levi go? Let's find it. Here's an ancient map that I'm going to put before your screen here. Here's an ancient map before you that shows the slave ports that you see on your screen here. These are all the areas the children of Israel were taken from and were scattered throughout North, Central, and South, well, different parts of England, the Western Hemisphere, predominantly America. So how do we know who Levi is? Well, on this ancient map that I have before you here, you see the kingdom of Benin on the ancient African map where you see Guinea. There's the kingdom of Benin, which you're going to find is the Levites, near where there's gold. And right here, under where you see proper Guinea, you see the kingdom of Judah. So we were there predominantly in Ghana, where it says Judah. And our brother Levi was predominantly in the kingdom of Benin. So to let you know, they have ancient maps in Africa with our Hebrew name attached to where we were. Here's the maps. So they knew they weren't taking Hamites off of the shores of Africa. They knew they were the children of Israel. We have the ancient maps, and a lot of these maps come out of Hebrewism in West Africa. Some people might ask, well, how do we know that they're from Benin? Well, guess who comes from Benin? Benin. The Haitians, and a lot of those that were taken into Brazil. Now, before the French took the Beninians into Haiti, you had the Baliqua Taino there, but they couldn't withstand the diseases that were in the land that the Europeans took to the land. So it began to wipe off the Tainos. So Ephraim was there, but they couldn't stand the climate with the diseases. So they started bringing Levi there. Not only that, another thing we figured out, and we're going to go through this, the Trinidadians. They're not Benjamin. Trinidad is Levi. Read this about the indigenous people of Haiti. Now, didn't the Bible told us that the instruments of cruelty would be in their habitation, right? Which we know is the witchcraft, the voodoo. I need you to read some of these parts concerning Haiti and where they was brought. The French took them. And I'm going to tell you, based on everything we've seen concerning Moses and how the Levites operate in the habitation of magic they deal with, it was to a point where the French could not turn them. They couldn't break them. They tried to actually bring them into Catholicism as a form of control so that the Romans can control them. And they end up hiding their witchcraft and magic in Catholicism and overtaking that and using that as higher magic against the French. To show you their witchcraft that they were dealing with. Let's go into the indigenous people that came from Benin, which was right next to Judah in Africa. Read.
This is an article titled African Origins of Haitians. It says, indigenous people. The name Haiti was indeed from the indigenous people who cultivated the land. The name Haiti simply means land of the mountain, because the island is surrounded by great landscapes and mountains. However, Columbus took it upon himself, as well as the other colonial explorers, to rename the island several times.
They wanted to rename it several times, but the Haitians weren't having it. Read.
One of the several names was Hispaniola, because the land reminded Columbus of Spain. The French secondly called the land Saint Domingue. The first peoples to arrive in Cuba, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic are believed to have come from the Yucatan Peninsula or other areas of Central America. These individuals were known as Caribe Taino. Being as it may, after the most of the indigenous people started to die off from smallpox and malaria.
And it's deep because they say in Taino, so they must know that the Cubans are also from the sons of who? Ephraim. See that? You got the Puerto Ricans and the Cubans, which are from the son of Ephraim, which is the Baliqua Taino Indians. So they know who the 12 tribes are. Right? Read.
Being as it may, after the most indigenous people started to die off from smallpox and malaria.
Exactly, because the Tainos were there first and began to die off with smallpox and malaria. Who brought that there? Read.
The colonials took the initiative on replacing them with the Africans. The Africans who came from Africa into Haiti were mainly from Bite and Benin.
They were from where?
From Bite and Benin.
And Benin. Now hold that. I just showed you Benin, which was right next to Judah on the Ivory Coast where there's gold. And even when you look at that map, you can see the Gihon River running through where they are. The Gihon River that's written of in the book of Genesis concerning the garden with the 4 rivers. The Gihon River is running in between Judah and Benin in Africa. They'll never tell you that that was an extension of Eden. Remember when the Most High says that he planted a garden eastward in Eden? That's when the whole landmass was one. And eastward in Eden is where he set Adam. Africa is an extension of Eden. They know this, which is the last battleground against God's people. Benin, right? The majority of them was taken into Haiti was from Benin. Let's go into Benin. You can actually read this off of Wikipedia. Read some of the highlighted areas.
It says, Republic of Benin, formerly Dahomey, is a country in West Africa.
Formerly, Dahomey is a country in West Africa. Go on.
It is bordered by Togo to the west, by Nigeria to the east, and by Burkina Faso and Niger to the north.
Now read down right here where it says Benin.
Benin is a tropical sub-Saharan nation highly dependent on agriculture and substantial employment and income arising from subsistence farming.
Read.
The official language of Benin is French.
The official language is French. However,
indigenous languages such as Fon and
Yoruba
are commonly spoken. The largest religious group in Benin is Roman Catholicism, followed closely by Islam.
Every place we're split between Islam and Christianity. Just like it said in Deuteronomy 28, that since we didn't want to follow our God, law, statutes, and commandments, he would make us worship wood and stone. The wood is the cross, and stone is your Kaaba. Every place we are, they put these two religions to divide us. Read on.
Vodun and Protestantism. Benin is a member of the United Nations, the African Union, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the South Atlantic Peace and Cooperation Zone. Jumping down to the...
Yeah, from the 17th.
From the 17th to the 19th century...
They began to grab them in number, the French in number, around 1750. They began to really grab our brothers, our Levite brothers from the shores of Africa, from Benin. Read.
The main political entities in the area were the Kingdom of Dahomey, along with the city-state of Porto Novo, and a large area with many different tribes to the north. This region was referred to as the Slave Coast from as early as the 17th century due to the large number of slaves shipped to the New World during the transatlantic slave trade.
Fulfilling the scriptures of Deuteronomy 28 and 68, being taken to a far land by the means of ships. Read the pre-colonial history of them.
It says, the country of Benin combines 3 areas which had political and ethnic systems prior to French colonial control.
Read.
Before 1700, there were a few important city-states along the coast, primarily of Asia ethnic group, but also including Yoruba and Gebe peoples, and the mass of tribal regions in inland composed of Bariba, Mahi, Gadevi, and Kebi peoples. The Oyo Empire, located to the east of modern Benin, was the most significant large-scale military force in the region, and it would regularly conduct raids and exact tribute from the coastal kingdoms and the tribal regions.
Let's go right here. By 1727.
By 1727, King Agaja of the Kingdom of Dahomey had conquered the coastal cities of Alada and Waida, but it had become a tributary of the Oyo Empire.
So it's showing you their military might. Same as Moses. Let's go down here, the Dahomey kingdom.
The Dahomey kingdom was known for its cultural traditions. Young boys were often apprenticed to older soldiers and taught the kingdom's military customs until they were old enough to join the army. Dahomey was also famous for instituting an elite female soldiers corps.
They even have an elite female soldiers corps. Read, you had Levite women rumbling. Go ahead.
Called a Hosi. An example, the king's wives, or Mino, are mothers. And the Fon language, Fangbe, and known by many Europeans as the Dahomean Amazons.
They was known as the Dahomean Amazons. That's what they was calling the women. Read on.
The emphasis on military preparation and achievements earned Dahomey the nickname of Black Sparta from European observers and 19th century explorers such as Sir Richard Burton.
So they were studying them and say, they're so industrious in war, men and women, that we need to call them the Black Spartans. Right? Now let's go back here. Right? Let's go right here to slavery.
It says, most Africans, as the famous Aluda Aquino, would write that sometimes indeed we sold slaves, but they were only prisoners of war.
So our people, Levi, from Benin, would sell their own slaves. They would sell slaves to the Europeans, but those that were prisoners of war, those that have done certain things, like through war, if they capture people or whatever, they would sell them. They weren't selling their own people. Read.
Or such among us as had been convicted of kidnapping.
Or if they had criminals amongst them, they would sell them. Read.
Or adultery, or some other crimes which they esteemed heinous.
If they were breaking the laws of the Most High, because they still held some of those, they would sell them to the Europeans, opposed to the capital punishment of death. They would profit from them. And see, and this is why most people, when we talk about slavery today, others would come in and say, well, you really can't say nothing about this because your people sold your own people. Well, guess what? That's true. But you didn't ever see a scenario in which our people sold 1 million people to somebody, or us enslaving 1 million and 2-3 million people and setting up a whole country in a financial market off of those people. So you can't compare the two. Of course, a lot of our kings were complicit in this evil. We were complicit since the days before we fell. That's why we're in this condition. But that doesn't minimize what was done to us by others. You understand? It don't marginalize that. Because if you look at the numbers that our people gave up, it's nowhere comparison to how many people were taken. See? Read on.
Like I mentioned also, not to mention that also the servitude we were used to in the Bible was much different than the servitude that the Europeans enacted.
Exactly. Our servitude wasn't perpetual, wasn't indefinite or perpetual. There was a law of jubilees that after a debt is paid, you're supposed to let a person free. Mm-hmm. No one is supposed to be enslaved or under a people forever, until death, from birth to death. Only unless that person volunteered to be under a house the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you brought that forth.
Right.
So even in an indentured servitude, which was not only amongst us, but with other nations, that was an agreement for a time. You wasn't supposed to rule the people and don't give them no knowledge or understanding of who they are and destroy them and enslave their children to be employment forever with no hope. You understand? Read on.
This is to simply state that most Africans brought to the New World were all of mixed tribes. However, as most scholars would note, most Africans brought to Haiti were of the Yoruba people in Benin.
Thank you. So even though they would bring certain mixed ones to certain areas, They made sure initially, the French, they brought most people from Aruba or from Benin. Now, eventually, they would try to bring in others to try to dilute their language by bringing someone, or let's bring another language in there. But Levi wasn't having it. They would just convert that language and mix it up and say, okay, you're speaking our language now. The French just threw up their hands when it came to them. They couldn't touch them. These people were relentless to the point where the French say, you know what, let's leave them on the island and die by themselves. Because they're never going to be obedient to us. They're never going to follow what we have to say. Every time we have a war, they're so tactic with the mountains. They were destroying the French in war. It's like, listen, just leave them there to die. Remind me of when they say, well, no, y'all can go. We ain't go. Levi was like there in Egypt saying, listen, you can go there. I'm not going to work for them. Same thing. Same spirit. It was like, listen, eventually they'll kill themselves. It's like, we're not going to build the infrastructure. We ain't going to let nothing in. And guess what? They have fulfilled the curse of being the base of all people, but they're still vibrant and strong and ready to be led through the Spirit. They're still here. Now there's more. Read on.
It says, however, this is due to the homemade kingdom conquered territories which were assimilated through intermarriage, uniform laws, and a common tradition of enmity to the Yoruba.
Come on.
The non-Yoruba Africans came from the Congo and Angola, with most coming from the region in which the Congo people resided. Be mindful that the Congo and Angola people were also intermingled with the Yoruba people. In other words, the Yoruba people were all over the west part of Africa.
Now, when you check out the Congos, that's where they started testing us for genetic experiments for the vaccines that would kill us off now. They started that because they couldn't study for human experiments within America. So they went to the Congos to test what the vaccines are doing to us now on the Levites in Congo. And you know how they try to bring the monkeys into the mix and all that, saying it was about monkeys? Well, they did that to hide the fact, and I did the research on it. It wasn't about the monkeys. They said monkeys so that people couldn't know that they were experimenting on us. So they was bringing monkeys back and forth just as a front from the Congos and make everyone believe that that's what they were experimenting on. Because it was against international law to do real-time experiments on people. So the same time they were doing the Tuskegee experiment on us in America, they was testing all these types of diseases that would mean to the total breakdown of our immune system in the Congos with Levi too. Okay? That's because, like I've mentioned countless times, they understand the prophecies of us rising. And they fear what the Egyptians leaders felt, that we would begin to multiply and overtake anything and eventually receive our promise. They can't stop it. Look at what y'all done to us. We're here. And no matter what you do to us, you cannot stop the prophecies of the Most High from being fulfilled. You do something to one of us or two of us, 12 of us, 10 of us, 100 of us just spring up with the Spirit. Read.
If anything, they were considered to be the largest group of people in the west parts of Africa. Although Haitian descendants come from the same continent, some of the Africans in Haiti were very much from different parts of Africa. Furthermore, mixing the different African tribes with each other was a tactic used by the French as well as other Europeans to keep African slaves from revolting or rebellion.
So they were looking to bring in others to try to homogenize the people. If people had the same culture, that was strength they can draw from to go against their enemy, to go against our enemy. Read.
Jumping down.
But we know in the majority, even though there's different tribes mixed, we know the majority is Benin. See? Read.
For example, if all spoke the same language, there would be a high chance of communicating and revolting, as opposed to those who spoke a different language and possible conflicts already from being in different tribes.
So they're looking to divide and conquer, cause some people to come in to cause some dissension, to break down the cultural connection they would have with their homeland, the understanding of their law. Now, even though Levi was brought low, to some degree they've kept a lot intact. They've kept a lot intact as far as being very family oriented, fighting against the spirit of homosexuality and all those other things, the other ills of this world. They battle against. Read.
Jumping down to religion, it says, one of the more popular religions was Vodun, which represent a blending of numerous African religions.
Go on.
Voodoo,
Here we go.
including Fon.
Habitation of cruelty. It says instruments of cruelty is in their habitations. They've created new magic. So you have to realize they were known in the past for what? If there was something we needed, we would go to them and bring the offering to them to sacrifice to cover certain sins. So now they do it today. If you have an issue or whatever, you bring them a chicken or bring them a goat. They're doing all that on the left-hand side. But where do you think they learned that from? They were the priests doing the sacrifice in the Old Testament. And they integrated that with new magic. That's why the Bible says, don't look into their secret. In Genesis 49, don't go into their secret. So they're using that same magic. Well, it wasn't magic in the Old Testament. It was actually a priesthood doing offerings under a spiritual ritual to the Most High. But after Levi fell, he continued the sacrifice, but under Satan now. Now it's all dark magic. So the Most High warned, don't go into their secret. So eventually, they began to teach the Dominicans and other tribes, and then Santa Maria and all that stuff sprang out of Levi. Levi taught all of them how to do it as first a weapon against the slave masters so that they can free themselves. So they was trying to use magic to fight against those who were oppressing them. Eventually, it became a weapon that they used and said, okay, it's good. But no, it's evil. The Most High want to break them from that because there's a price to pay for utilizing dark magic, for dealing with Satan. There's a price, a soul. So I'm putting this out there. A lot of them deal with it as it's just like going to church on Sundays for them. They'll go put a spell on somebody or something. It's just like walking down the street. It's just part of their culture. So we're putting it out there that there's a chance of repentance for them too. They're willing to walk away from it all the way, get baptized and receive the Holy Spirit. They can be saved even from that. If they're willing to walk away from it, or the darkness will overtake you and all your generations will be blotted out. And you will burn in hell like the ancestors of you who've used it in the past, which is being straight out with you. Your time is up. The more magic you use against these politicians and all that, yeah, you're using all that. And matter of fact, Bill Clinton and all of them go right over to Haiti to get magic to use against other people. So they know who has the high magic, but guess what? When you get too big, what happens? We're going to show you. When you get too big, and they know your magic is working, now you start to use it against the same politicians who are paying you, they send earthquakes. See these pictures here? This is what happened in 2010. So the elite powers are saying, yeah, you got magic, but you will stay base amongst all people, and we will destroy you. See? So as soon as the Haitians began to actually operate and want their own and become self-sufficient politically. And it was coming. They were getting notoriety and all that. Eventually, Rome sent the earthquake. And the Most High allowed it. Why? Because there's no repentance. They're still dealing with Catholicism. They're still dealing with voodoo at a high level, witchcraft. So the Most High is allowing the Gentiles to break them even further. Because he's calling Levi back. Read on what you have here.
It says,
the religion. Go on.
Vodun can be directly traced to the African Yoruba people who lived in the 18th and 19th century Dahomey.
Go ahead.
Its roots may go back years in Africa and parts today known as Togo, Benin, and Nigeria.
Come on.
The Africans from these occupied places, once shipped out of their own regions, brought their religion with them once they reached the West Indies. Yoruba people were found throughout the Francophone Caribbean, including Louisiana.
Including where?
Including Louisiana and Trinidad.
Including Louisiana and Trinidad. So at one point, the French, before the colonies united, the French owned all of Louisiana before the colonies united. And guess who they took to Louisiana? Levi. With the same magic and voodoo you see in Haiti. So the people that was taken into Louisiana originally from the slave trades, from the French, where the French quarters at, and all of different parts of Louisiana, Levi, Haitians, and Trinidadians. They took Levi to Trinidad. Read on.
Where French planters moved after uprising and Saint Domingue in the 1790s. The Catholic belief was very much incorporated as well, because most slaves, if not all, were forced to be baptized into Christianity.
They was forced to be baptized into not just Christianity, pagan Christianity under the Roman Catholic Church. They were forced. Read.
However, the Africans secretly merged their religious background with the Catholic belief.
So they hid their magic and their customs within the Catholicism and formed a new religion. Read.
It says, jumping down to impact in U.S. history, it says, Haitians have played a part in the history of the United States. For example, Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable was the founder of Chicago. Although Chicago was not chartered as a city until 1837, its founding took place many years before, when Du Sable opened his trading post beside the Chicago River. Jumping down, it says another example is Henry Christophe, who participated in the American Revolutionary War and the French contingent. As a sergeant, he amongst 545 Haitian free Negroes, known as the Fontages Legion, fighting to make men in another country free from oppression, created a thirst for freedom within Christophe. Once Haiti gained its independence, Napoleon's plan collapsed, forcing French troops to return defeated to France and preventing them from reaching their ultimate destination, Louisiana.
Man, let me tell you, matter of fact, a brother was telling me, Fresnel and others, I speak to other brothers from Haiti, who told, like, the legends of what happened in Haiti is so crazy that you wouldn't even want to. He's like, listen, I'm going to tell you, my grandfather told me that when they had that war, one brother say they had the war, and they had dead people. Levi was doing some magic where dead people were riding horses with swords, coming after these. they was breaking out. They were doing some magic there. He's like, there's a legend that they were raising dead people that was riding on horses without heads and all that, fighting against Napoleon in them. Like, what? What are y'all? He's like, man, we got to think. He says there's things where certain nights there would be dead people just walking around. Remember he was telling us when he says they got certain magic and they like, don't go in that house, don't go there, because they have dead people and all that. You'll see them walking down the street and you just stay in the house during that period. This is the magic they're dealing with over in Haiti today. So it's to the point where the French was like, you know what? No, whatever they're dealing with, they'll kill themselves there. That's why the Most High says don't go into their secret. Because to some degree, they still have that power and total understanding and belief in the sacrifices they were doing under Levi. But they're dealing with it on another level now. You understand? They have the spiritual science on how to deal with the spiritual realm. But it's wrong. Another thing, all of Levi didn't leave, wasn't dispersed, just like we have people in Ghana right now. You understand? So when you look at the Ashanti tribe, the majority of the Ashanti is Levi. Right next to Ghana. Right? Also, this is Jewish news. Roots Shiva, Channel 7. Now, they won't publish this in America the way they need to. But on Aruba Shiva 7, on Israel News, they said what? Read it.
It says, another fragment of the lost tribes of Israel found in Africa.
Another fragment of the lost tribes of Israel found in Africa. Read what it says here, the Limba.
It says, the Limba, whose oral traditions state that their ancestors were Jews, practice customs and are remarkably similar to those of the house of Israel. They keep one day of the week holy, bless the new moon, circumcise their boys, slaughter meat in a ritual manner.
They off. Go ahead.
Avoid eating food with blood and
Good.
do not eat pork.
Good.
Some men wear yarmulkes.
Off.
They strongly discourage marriage outside the tribe.
Good.
And the custom of the tribe is inscribed a Star of David on the gravestone.
Off. See, that's why the Jewish people don't mind publicizing them as the example for Israel today. Because they're still following the Babylonian ways and customs. See, these are not from the sons of Zadok. So they swear they're getting some level of notoriety because they're being recognized being black Jewish people. But no, if you're not dealing with Christ, it doesn't matter if you're still doing all the rituals. Only thing we're bringing forth here is that they're recognizing that the children of Israel were and always will be black people, people of color. They know this. How can a fragment of Israel be this in South Africa and they over there next to a wall in all black, Europeans hitting their head against the wall talking about Rosh Hashanah? Something is not adding up here. But they will not publicize this amongst us. And I'm going to tell you, this is a political move right here that the Limbas are doing to get notoriety or some type of recognition from the Jewish converts that are in the land. See, that's the political move right here. When we're in this together, it's not supposed to be just one tribe somewhere recognized. When we are all over the earth scattered, suffering the curses of Deuteronomy 28. But I just wanted to put it out there to let you know that they're even publicizing this. And the only reason they're putting it out now is because it can't be hid. And they'd rather spin it with someone they can control. With a group they can control. That's looking for some level of political status and recognition from Jewish people. See? It was like, well, we can't stop it. The cat is out of the bag now. Let's control it. Let's say we do recognize the Limba, knowing that the Limba is only doing what we're doing. And that we will only recognize Israelites who follow the synagogue of Satan. Read this part down here.
It says, the oral tradition handed down among the Yemenite Jews is as similar, stating that after the expulsion following the destruction of the first temple,
Go on.
the Leviim and the Kohanim fled towards Yemen. The groups then split, with some continuing towards the south in the direction of Africa.
In the direction of Africa. They know that Israelites split and went into different parts of Africa during the destruction of the second temple. Right? Like we were going into, right? Read here.
It says the tribe, approximately 80,000 strong, lives in central Zimbabwe and northern part of South Africa. And prizes above all its holiest object, the Ngoma Lagunda, the drum that thunders.
And guess who the Jewish people recognize these people in Limba as, or the Limba tribe as? Levi. So Levi is suffering and is based amongst all people in Haiti today. They're suffering having to dig the gold out with their own fingers in Western Africa right now just to get a meal for the day. So all the gold that they're scraping with their fingers and all that the Jewish people are benefiting from, it's the Levites digging that gold out. Being based amongst all people, which were once priests. Our brothers in Louisiana, who suffered due to what happened with the so-called hurricane when they blew the levees over there. What happened to our people in Haiti? This is all systematic control to keep Israel from ever coming back to the truth and gaining their rightful priesthood under Christ. We here as the Gathering of Christ Church saying, it's time to come back. Come back to the Most High. All 12 tribes and all nations who understand it's time to follow the God of the Hebrews, Ahia by Hashem Yeshai. With that, we have shown Levi today. Judah was last week. Levi is today. Next week, we're going into Benjamin. Shalom.
Shalom.
Wake up. I'm sorry about this. It's been going in and out. But I'm using a new platform that's pretty good on the producer side of things. But obviously, it's an issue when it comes to broadcasting. So I have to fix that. So I apologize for that. All right. What's next? Someone says, Mrs. Judah, 1949. Great lesson. All praise be to the Most High. Thank you very much. This is why they came up with the fertility drugs. Came up with fertility drugs for white people, trying to cause them to have more children than us. No, I really think that, believe it or not, they came up with fertility pills because of what they're doing is making everyone infertile. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to give them some level of advantage of medicines we can't get to. But they're trying to, they're not discriminating with the products they're putting out there. Right. So they understand that it'll probably affect other nations more so. With them trying to get us infertile, it's affected everyone else. But that is a point of them trying to control things through eugenics to make sure they even the population to some degree. So I understand that.
I can read this real quick on that.
Yeah.
It's Isaiah 14:1. It says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and will set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joint with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob." So they know the prophecies, in other words, of the nations in the last days cleaving to us.
Yeah.
So they trying to get the nations also.
Exactly. So they know the nations are going to cleave to us. So they're looking to wipe everyone out.
Right.
Let's see. It says, I have the Pseudepigrapha book, but it doesn't have the Zadokite works. Because it's a two-part book. There's only one part right here. There's only one part. It's a two-part book. I got two books. Oh, yeah. There's a two-part book. There's only half of the book. So it's a set. So you probably have one part that have the regular Apocrypha information in it. You need the second set too. It's a blessing that we found this for the price. And I mean, they try to sell this book on certain platforms for like 2,000 or 3,000 for the set. So if you can find these, and believe it or not, they're out there well cheaper than that. And a lot of those that are putting it online or whatever don't even know their worth. Mm-hmm. So if you can find them, it'll be good, because I was speaking to, I think, lawyer. I was speaking, I was speaking to you the other day and saying that really what they're doing right now is a book burning without telling everyone. They're having everyone out there dependent more so online and what you can get online, to the point where people are not buying books anymore. I was telling you, I think, right?
Yes,
it was Shapiro I was talking to. I'm like, so it's really a book burning without telling people. When they do something with these computers and make it where you can't deal with them the way you're dealing with them now freely, then what you read will be restricted. No matter what you downloaded or whatever. If you don't have the real book, you're not going to have it. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm checking out people now that they're looking at their phone and reading the Bible and all that. I'm like, okay, when it all break out, you're not going to get my book. So you better get your book. You better have your book. You will be looking at a white screen that's not going to be good. It's going to be something you got to throw at somebody before you can get away. That's what that's going to be. It's going to be the last wave of defense.
Right.
That's what these. That's what this technology is going to be. The last stance of defense. You're going to throw that thing and try to get away. And you ain't going to be having no books or nothing on it. It's what we would call a modern day book burning. You're not getting me with that. I'd rather have my books. I'll keep my clothes and everything else somewhere and just take my books. I can get everything else every other place. I will have my books. What's the next thing here?
Someone says...
Hold up, one moment.